next speaker today would be Dr. Graciela Raga. Just a brief introduction. Dr. Raga is a senior scientist at the Institute for Atmospheric Sciences and Climate Change at UNAM in Mexico. She holds a degree in meteorology from the University of Buenos Aires and a PhD in atmospheric sciences from the University of Washington. Her research focuses on aerosol and cloud processes, synoptic and climate phenomena, and short-lived climate forces with around 20 peer-reviewed publications. She was a lead author for the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, WGI-AR4, for which received the Nobel Peace Prize in 2007. Dr. Raga has been recognized with the Races Award for International Cooperation in Science, Technology and Innovation by Argentina's Ministry of Science. She also co-chairs the Regional Assessment of Short-Lived Climate Pollutants in Latin America and the Caribbean, and is currently a lead author for the UNEP Global Environmental Outlook Report. Additionally, he serves as chief editor of and peer reviewers of several journals, including PLOS Climate, among others. So today, Dr. Raga is going to be talking to us on climate change in Mexico, heat waves, biomass burning, and air quality. So Dr. Raga, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. And first of all, I'd like to thank the Green Institute for inviting me to participate in this World Sustainability Conference that is truly multidisciplinary. I'm afraid I am it's a little early for me in the Western Hemisphere, but I'll do my best to be coherent. I would like to talk today about briefly about how climate change is compounding health risks associated with air pollution, and how some of the mitigating options that we have will lead to worsening the situation in urban areas. So I will focus mainly in Mexico today, but extreme events are increasing everywhere. In Mexico, we have had heat waves. It's obviously located in a tropical region, and it has experienced extreme heat waves, even though the population is used to large, high temperatures, of course. But we have had now intense rainfall and hail, which has not been the case in the past, and leading to flooding. And of course, we are very, very familiar with tropical cyclones, and they occur on both coasts of Mexico, but we have seen an increase in the rapid intensification of cyclones, and the most incredibly rapidly intensifying cyclone happened last year, Hurricane Otis, that became a Category 5 cyclone to impact the city of Acapulco with its full blast, and the city is still recovering from the damages. So let me set the context, and we have seen an increase in heat waves, even in Mexico City, that it's located very high above the sea level, so that the temperature range is much smaller than in Acapulco, for example. So lead climatologists from the past had studied heat waves since the 1900s, and recently the work has been done to extend that climatology, and we have seen an increase in heat waves over the decades from the beginning of the 20th century. And it has been a systematic increase, and there are 3 months that are typical, March, April, and May, for heat waves have even shifted to June, where we had a devastating heat wave in 2023 that happened in June, and it was only the sixth heat wave in the whole since 1900, so very unusual. So the season is extending, and we see trends extending in different months. On top of that, as the previous speaker mentioned, in the tropics, forest fires are many times associated with agricultural burns. The slash and burn are practices that are very common in the especially in indigenous areas, but also in many regions in the country, as we can see here in this climatology of the purely agricultural burns. And so the burns coincide with the season when the heat waves are becoming more frequent. That is, as you can see in the lower diagram, March, April, and May have always been the typical months for higher frequency of forest fires. And we can see, especially in May, that the burning happens in brush and what is called the dry tropical forest, which emits much more. So the emissions of these burns contribute, are precursors to ozone formation in the countryside, and also the loading of fine particles, both of which are important, are health risks for populations. So one recent case that we have studied in 2019 has put the Mexico City with its 22 million inhabitants in pretty much lockdown for several days. As you can see in the figure, the values of PM2.5 observed that are shown in this diagram with the red diamond were much higher, the 99th percentile, as you see here in yellow. So this event was associated, this extreme fine particle event in Mexico City was associated with a regional transport of biomass burning. And it was agricultural fires that became more widespread because of drier conditions in the soil and warmer temperatures. So that is one case that created a lot of problems for the urban area. And more recently, in May of 2024, we had another heat wave that was very large and lasted for many days. In fact, this year, 2024, we had, in the spring, we had 14 episodes of a shutdown of vehicular traffic and emissions from industries because of the ozone event. This in one particular case, this combination that is the same weather pattern associated with heat waves, which is a high solar radiation, high temperatures, led to ozone values that were between, as I put here, in this range, when the World Health Organization guideline is 70. So you can imagine, again, it was just like in May 2019, we're seeing a really extreme events of air quality. But that is not just occurring in Mexico. Here I'm showing a couple of cases. This is the days in which they have heat waves, and this is the air quality index for one particular day. So both the days with heat waves are increasing in the US and Canada, but they are also increasing in Mexico, and they lead to forest fires and mid-latitude forest fires, which deteriorate air quality. And also, you may remember how the images of New York with smoke from Canadian fires. So the project, the surface PM, is going to continue to increase in the future, as well as the surface ozone. So I don't want to take time, so I'm going to make some remarks that can lead to some of the discussion, if you will. So we have continued to have greenhouse gas emissions, which exert obviously a positive radiative forcing and increase global temperature, but also the frequency of extreme events. This is something that is well known everywhere, and even in the tropical regions where we are used to large temperatures. We are seeing extreme events, much more frequent and more intense heat waves, and they lead to an increased risk in intense forest fires, which are in the tropics often initiated as agricultural fires. Over 90%, more like 99% of the cases in Mexico are not associated with natural, for example, causes. The fires like lightning would be. Those are not happening in the season where we have the most of the fires. So as a society, we need to prepare for more of these extreme fine particle and ozone events, where the urban areas where most of the population lives in Latin America, not only in Mexico, is being affected by this. And let's consider that the heat waves, the patterns that lead to heat waves, are the patterns that dry the soil and lead also to more intense fires. So those are connected, at least in our region, and we need to be prepared to deal with that. And even though for example, air quality in Mexico has improved substantially from the extremely bad conditions in the late 80s due to a lot of intervention and the help of the population to accommodate those interventions. The pollution in the 80s, Mexico City was one of the most polluted cities in the world, but the conditions now are comparable in some episodes and are not due to the urban emissions, but rather to the combination of the climate changing and the continued heat slash and burn activities, which are banned in many of the states in Mexico, but cannot be enforced many times. So that's one thing. Then another important aspect that we need to consider is that the transition to electric transport, that it is being accomplished slowly, but surely, will further remove particles in the urban atmosphere. And these particles that lead to, that scatter the radiation, have kept the city a little cooler because of their presence. So a cleaner air, which is what we want for health risk, to remove a health risk, will lead to even higher temperature increases. So we need to be prepared for higher temperatures in all urban areas, not only because of the climate, but because we're cleaning the cities. And with that, I thank you. I can take your questions.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Raga, for that insightful talk. Well, it's very interesting to see how heat wave affects works in Mexico. And of course, I also know that it's not probably only localized to Mexico, in some other part of the country, like already mentioned, like Canada and some other European countries. So I do have a quick question I wanted to ask is, also, what are the specific measures? Probably you must have mentioned this during your presentation. So what are the specific measures that Mexico, as it were, can take to mitigate this increasing frequency of heat waves and their impact on the air quality?
Well, it's very difficult because it's not a local action that you can take. It is the result of the world, the planet warming up. Mm-hmm. This increase in the frequency and the intensity of the heat waves. So really, it requires everybody to contribute. In Mexico, we need to be more efficiently controlling the agricultural fires. There is no question about that. But the conditions that lead to drier soils and drier fuel in the countryside are going to continue. And we need to be prepared for this increased contingency and really episodes of extreme pollution that we have seen compared to now the average reduced pollution that we had accomplished through mitigation and specific mitigation of emissions from super emitters, from introducing reforestation, well, a number of actions that have been taken place in the city. Mexico City has participated for a long time in climate mitigation itself, but we need the whole planet to contribute into lowering greenhouse gas emissions.
Absolutely, I agree with you, Dr. Raga. So because of time, we'll be moving on to the next speaker. So thank you very much, Dr. Raga, for
Thank you.
For